Today is Tuesday, April 9th, AD 2024. This is the Africa Review in 5, written by Andrew Zackfeld and presented by Amikani Katunga. Will your vote fix the country? I still remember one of the more tense political engagements of my earlier years as a pastor. It was in the days leading up to a national election in the country of South Africa. The parties involved in that particular political fight were not political. Instead, it was a husband and his wife, each roping the pastor in for self-vindication. One spouse argued that a Christian's vote should be determined by moral issues, while the other argued for economic and political freedoms and improved service delivery. What should the determining factors be in influencing a Christian's political vote? The determining factors in voting can easily be cast into three categories: liberation, services, and morality. Though not completely mutually exclusive, the recognition of these three categories helps us evaluate our expectations of government. In 1994, the South African national election was overtly determined by liberation factors, ridding the country of systemic racism and opening the portals of human rights, education, business, and land ownership to all people groups. Liberation from segregation, poverty, and discrimination became the pillars that compelled individual votes. Services factors are the engine behind many political posters this election year. Clean water, constant electricity, healthcare, school placement, and job creation are the service delivery carrots being dangled in front of voting citizens. But then, there are always the great moral concerns influencing the vote of individual voters. Charts are available explaining the various political party stances on moral matters like abortion, euthanasia, marriage, and sex workers. Liberation, services, and morality. Even in the plethora of political parties that undergird South African elections, it would appear that not even one party promises immediate hope in all three of those categories. Take, for example, the Democratic Alliance, otherwise known as the DA, one of the top three political parties in South Africa. The DA is making headlines in the services category. In the first 100 days of Chris Pappas as the DA mayor of the Umgeni municipality, the little town of Howick and its surrounding areas have seen an increase in service delivery vehicles like tractors and trash compactors. The streets are cleaner and the people seem happier. Likewise, for liberation factors, Pappas put an end to much of the cadre deployment, curtailed much of the corruption, and implemented a lotto-based system for more fair hiring of municipal staff. Yet, the DA is morally infamous for its support of the LGBTQ agenda and its screaming silence on abortion. In 1994, the ANC brought liberation, but 30 years later, we observe the ruinous state of both services and morality. Now it appears that the DA will bring both liberation and services, but at the cost of moral collapse. How then shall we vote? Our expectations of government might fall into all three categories: liberation, services, and morality. But what are the true, objective, transcendent, and timeless expectations of government? Romans 13 verses 3-6 makes a moral case for mankind to expect the government to reward good conduct, terrorize evildoers, and exact taxes. This falls primarily in the moral category, with perhaps a small contribution to the services category. 1 Timothy 2:2 adds the objective expectation of the government to play a substantial role in the peace and dignity of our daily lives. At first glance, this would certainly appear to be in the liberation and services category, until you find the word godly in the explanation of what a peaceful and dignified life would be. Therefore, this creates a strong moral expectation of the government. The book of Proverbs has much to say about the keys to successful politics. The keys to successful national government appear to fall overwhelmingly in the moral category. Proverbs 20 verses 26-28 expects the government to be wise, to harvest the wicked out of the land, and to be preserved through faithfulness. Proverbs 25 verse 2 confirms that it is glorious of God to forgive sins, but the king must establish justice. Proverbs 16 verse 12 inculcates the expectation of government not only to remove evildoers, but more so, to abstain from evil themselves. The kingly creed of Proverbs 31 expects of government to have a high view of marriage and family, and to remain sober and just at all times. Even in the government's responsibility to the poor, it is the moral demand of justice for the poor that is emphasized, rather than liberation from poverty or service delivery to the poor. We must re-establish the moral category of factors that determine how we vote. It behoves those with virtuous insight to emphasize the moral factors. And that's it for the Africa Review in 5 on this Tuesday, April 9th, in the year of our Lord 2024. Subscribe to the Missionary Minds podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I am Yamikani Katunga. Be not weary in well-doing.